What is going on, everyone? My name is Aquarius. Welcome to the new league. It might be a new league, it might not be. It's the ZUL off season. We decided to do a Let's Go league, and this is exactly what I needed in my break between quitting LTC and joining PIBA. I didn't really, at the time starting this, know where I was going to go, but I did know I wanted to still play Mons in a laid-back, refreshed setting. Let's Go, super easy to team build. It takes about a minute or two, and you just play your games. But I don't want to not upload this. I do want to sort of have it in my history, so I am going to sort of do a post commentary of all the 5 games I had against all my opponents in this league, and in the end I will let you know if I made playoffs or not, but we'll see. I'm going to first show you all my draft. I drafted Mega Venusaur as my starter pick. I thought that Mega Venusaur is very powerful even though it doesn't have recovery. I then drafted Alolan Muck, which covers Venusaur's weaknesses pretty nicely. I mean, it actually doesn't cover its weaknesses that nicely, but it was just another one of those insane good Mons. I picked Sandslash because I needed a Rocks, and Rocks are broken because there's no hazard clearing in this game. I drafted Jojo for speed. I drafted Electrode for more speed. I drafted Machamp because I needed a fighting type, and I just wanted a very strong physical hitter. I drafted Ninetales because I lacked a fire type. I drafted the other Sandslash because I wanted more rocks, and I drafted Kingler and Blastoise because I didn't have water types, and you gotta have 2 water types on a perfect draft. So there wasn't a lot of thought going into this draft. I just wanted to pick Mons that I thought were cool, that I really liked. I'm just going to go through the other people that were here. I'm not going to go through all of their drafts for the meantime, but yeah, there was Quinnipiac Quillfish, aka QQ, Tangleboots, who everyone's familiar with, the Blue Phoenix, who is my partner in the ZUL, and is also just a fantastic guy, Ratatamen, who's a big fan and follower of the channel, Jackal, it was Jackal in the later bits of the season, who I think follows this channel a little bit, and Elliot / the One Guy, played for the first 2 or 3 weeks of this, and then Slick Panther, who I've faced once before on the channel in the LTC, a really nice Irish dude, and then Blind Messiah, aka Sean, who's been featured on the channel before. So yeah, all really close friends and great people, all with pretty fun drafts. You see things here like Alolan Executor drafted 3rd. You see, shit like Porygon picked by Tangleboots, the starter Pikachu. There's definitely a cool format here. And I don't know, I just find that really refreshing. Even if it's a worse off format, it's sort of heartwarming in a way and very cool. So I'm going to go through all the games and go through the team builds as well. The first opponent I had was Slick Panther. So let's go down there. Okay. So Slick Panther had Nidoking, Rhydon, Pinsir, all this stuff. I just sort of noticed that he was weak to ice and grass and those sort of things. So I'm going to go through the team here. I noticed he was pretty weak to both Sleep Powder and didn't really have any great switch-ins for grass moves, hence Mega Drain and Leech Seed. Mega Drain is the same as Giga Drain in the ZUL League, in the Let's Go format in terms of base power. I put Sledge Bomb on there to hit everything Mega Drain couldn't, and then Alolan Muck, this basically hits everything. I put Facade in case I get burned. Then I put Sandslash, it was just my stealth rocker for this game, and then I also had to bring my other Sandslash because I wanted priority, and also I wanted to ensure I got rocks up because they were so good against his team, so I put 2 rockers on there, and then Dual Stab with Sandslash Lolo basically hit most stuff on his team. Blastoise as well did a really good job in the sense of he didn't have a lot of great water switch-ins, and then priority Aqua Jet was very good, and that was the other reason I brought my other Watermon as my sweeper, because he didn't have a lot of great Crabhammer switch-ins. And I think a lot of this is due to him not having a grass type. Yeah, not having a grass type. So I don't know. It's good. I hope this music isn't too loud, but we'll see. So this is the game. He leads his Persian, I lead my Blastoise, and he goes for a Thunderbolt. I don't think he expects me to be offensive, but once I hit him with the Scald, it does powerful 50%. I do get the burn, which is quite nice. But I can just Scald again, which is nice. He is going to double Thunderbolt there, and make my Blastoise really low. And here I make a mistake and I go into Kingler thinking that I can take 2 X-Scissors, and it turns out I can't. I think it's because he was adamant and I just didn't expect it. So I do mistakenly let my Cookie Monster drop. He does go for a Swords Dance as I go for my Stealth Rocks, expecting him to switch out. This is very scary for me, but thankfully I don't die to an X-Scissor. And also Rock Slide is able to put him down in range for an Ice Shard. So a nice trade there. A lot of this format is just a lot of trading back and forth, so it's always important to sort of bear that in mind. He does go for Flamethrower. I know my Muck can take one. He goes for another Flamethrower. Does not get the burn, thankfully, and Crunch does 37%. He does end up killing my Muck, but that's no big deal because Blastoise does have the Aqua Jet. And at this point in the game, he's looking incredibly Venusaur weak. Both Slowbro and Clefable just straight up die, and then Venusaur actually can't beat out my Venusaur's Mega Drains with any of its attacks, if that makes sense. You're about to see that now, actually, in the sense of I take out the Clefable, and even if this Nidoking has something along the lines of Ice Beam, he actually has Earthquake. It's not going to do even over half, and Giga Drain is going to recover 22%. So Ice Beam, as you can see there, does 34%. Basically no damage because I am specially defensive. And yeah, that's going to be the first game. So thankfully we get a 2-0 start to the season. And next week we're taking on the god himself, Tangle of Boots. So let's look at his team. He has Mega Beedrill, Poliwrath, Golem, Exeggutor, Magneton, Tauros, Gyarados, Rapidash, Jinx, and Porygon. This game is very important, and not because of the league itself. Let me get a sip of water. Not because of the league itself, but because there's this whole thing called a science of soul owning. And this only is in my mind, it doesn't actually matter. But in my opinion, if someone beats you in league 3 times in a row, they own your soul. And I don't want my soul to be owned, because Boots has beaten me twice in a row. Once in OWL, once in ABC Finals. So this was a must-win game. If I wanted to keep my soul, I needed to win this game. So there's a whole science of soul owning. I might do a video on it because I think it's so funny. But yeah, his team is interesting. I noticed right away that his team was very weak to rocks, and I also noticed right away that his only rock setter was Golem. So I automatically knew Golem was coming, and then obviously Mega Beedrill. He's very defensively reliant on Poliwrath, all these things. So yeah, I also expected Rapidash to come because it was his best answer to my Mega Venusaur. He didn't have a lot of great answers to Mega Venusaur. Jinx and Rapidash were basically must-brings. So between Golem, Rapidash, and Jinx, I already know half of his team. I will go into the team I brought against Boots right here. I brought my Alolan Muck as the first thing because I wanted something that I knew could beat Golem, in the sense that Mega Drain is just going to knock it out. He might be able to bring in Golem thinking that it beats my Alolan Muck. I just think it's a nice element of surprise there. And then Self-Destruct obviously can trade 1-for-1. Something could trade something along the lines of Jinx or even Rapidash, something that I know is going to beat one of my walls later on in the game. I brought Electrode because it is the only Mon that was drafted that outspeeds Boots' Mega Beedrill, so it works very, very well for me. A Foul Play does a lot of damage. I think it does about half. Teleport's really nice to get that slow priority if he wants to switch out of a water type or something along those lines. Thunderbolt hits everything else, and then Mirror Coat was just there in case I thought it was worth it. I was mostly just going to be hitting Thunderbolt and Foul Play anyway. Obviously, I don't touch Golem that well, but I think my other mounts handle it pretty well, including my defensive Mega Venusaur with Earthquake, Mega Bomb, Sludge Bomb, and Leech Seed. Knowing that Jinx and Rapidash are his best answers to Venusaur, Earthquake was pretty nice because Jinx's defense is booty and Rapidash is weak to it. And then Dual Stab plus Leech Seed is obviously very helpful. Blastoise is there as a stallier set. I did a Toxic, Protect, Seismic Toss, Surf. Surf hits most stuff, but for the stuff that Surf doesn't hit, Seismic Toss does just as well, and then Toxic Protect whittles things down. That is actually very important to me because he does have things like Poliwrath that don't want to be Toxic stalled. He has things along the lines of Gyarados in the same vein, even Porygon. And this also does a pretty good amount to Exeggutor if he decides that this is his Exeggutor answer. This is my rocker, Sand/Alola. I just figured Ice and Earthquake hit his team pretty effectively, and then Stealth Rock is obviously, like I said, crucial. And then Dodrio is the last mon I put on. I was going to do a Swords Dance set, but I actually realized that a Roost and just... I realized that he couldn't stop me from roosting up on certain things. So, for example, if his Poliwrath is in, or his, or his Executor is in, even Magneton is in, I can actually roost up pretty effectively on it because I lose my flying type. Same with, Gyarados. I just figured Roost was a little bit more effective, and if he's trying to switch out, I can get my health back. Reliable recovery is also very useful. Quick Attack was for the Beedrill, and then Drill Peck and Jump Kick hits everything else. So we're going to see how this game went. Obviously, don't want my soul to be owned, but we'll find out if it is or isn't. So he actually leads straight off with the Beedrill, and he didn't bring the Golem, which is shocking. So I already know that Dodrio is going to look really nice here because he immediately, I know, doesn't have rocks, which is, fundamentally crucial in this league. So, yeah, no rocks is awesome. So he ends up going into Rapidash. I go for the Leech Seed. I almost hit Earthquake there, but I ended up not doing so. Thankfully, I haven't revealed Earthquake yet. I go into my Blastoise here knowing that he doesn't get Wild Charge in this generation, and I expect him to switch into a Magneton. It doesn't take a lot from Seismic Toss, but I just figured Seismic Toss was free because it hits everything. And I go into my Electrode here. Obviously, I can't do much, but I am going to be able to get the slow pivot off into Mega Venusaur. Now, he's going into Rapidash thinking that he's safe from a Leech Seed or something, but I do end up revealing the Earthquake and knocking him out. I am forced to switch out because of his Jinx, and he actually goes for a Lovely Kiss, which is scary because it means that his 3 Mons that he has left that are weak to rocks aren't going to get, hit by rocks, which is really, really frustrating because my whole game plan was get rocks up and then do work from there. So I'm going to have to compromise a little bit. Thankfully, my Blastoise takes these Earthquake hits, and I can fire back with the Seismic Toss. Even though it doesn't do that much, it does get it in range of some important attacks that are good. I am going to go for the Thunderbolt against the Jinx, and then I'm actually going to go for the Foul Play because I saw that it did a good amount of damage. I expected it to do more, but I completely forgot that it takes the opponent's attack, not my attack. So Jinx's attack sucks, but it still does a good amount of damage. Now here I'm forced to sack my Alolan Sandslash, which sucks. But I am able to go into my Dodrio and revenge this. Thankfully, I do switch out because I do think that Quick Attack on Dodrio is going to be very useful in the end, and I do sack my Muck to this Tauros. Now, thankfully, I know that my Venusaur actually walls this Tauros quite well because it's defensive. So I am going to be able to recover all of the health, nearly all of the health that he dealt to me with Double Edge via my Giga Drain. And I'm actually in a position where I don't know if Beedrill kills me. I don't think it does. Yeah, it doesn't. So Beedrill doesn't actually kill me because it doesn't have adaptability. And I am going to be able to go for my Earthquake and get some damage off, which is going to put it in range of Quick Attack. Thankfully, I can just go into my Electrode as well and kill it. So thankfully, I do beat Boots for the first time in my Draft League career. Even if it was in the ZUL Let's Go format, it is still nice to beat him. And not have my soul owned. So yeah, I don't know, it's pretty nice. 2-0 win again, so we are 2-0 +4 in this league. So let's go into the next game. It was against Manib, aka the Blue Phoenix. He's the person who I've really been helping out in draft leagues that he's been in, as well as we were partners in the actual ZUL main season. You can find that on the channel. He's such a character, I love him so much. And his team is, in my opinion, the most threatening team in the entire draft, and that's because he has both Charizard X and Dragonite, 2 mons that are absurdly good, as well as Venusaur. Cloyster is a shell smashing sweeper potential. He got Raichu in the last round, which is one of the best mons, which is like I'd say one of the top half of mons in this format. And then obviously things like Raticate-Alola and Machoke, even if they don't do a lot themselves, if you don't prep for them, they're obviously very scary. He does have 2 Rock Setters. It's just a pretty good team. So it was tough to prep for, but I'll go into what the prep is now. There we go. So I noticed that he sort of just lost to a Swords Dance Dodrio. The only thing he had to outspeed it was Raichu, just Raichu. So, I almost put Quick Attack on it, but I realized it wasn't really that worth it. I just figured I'd win the speed tie. I'd rather have Thrash, which was going to annihilate anything, and then Drill Peck and Jump Kick hit the rest that it didn't hit. Blastoise here is a similar set to last week, the sort of Toxic Stall plus Surf and Ice Beam hits everything else. Alolan Sandslash was my dedicated rocker. Ice and Fighting hit everything on his team. Alolan Muck is cool. It Mega Drains things like the Golem and the Kabutops, and then has coverage for everything else. This is Ninetales' debut. I figured a Nasty Plot plus Flamethrower and Dark Pulse would work quite effectively versus him. And then Electrode, which has Thunderbolt and Foul Play similar. And then I put Thunder Wave on in case of Charizard X or Dragonite wanting to Agility, things along those lines. So that was the team. It was a sort of defensive Electrode because I didn't need the speed. And I also didn't really care for the Thunderbolt attack, so I wanted to be able to live things like an Earthquake from Charizard or from Dragonite, etc. So let's go into the game. It's an interesting game. I lead off with a Muckalola. He leads the Machoke. I do immediately switch to Blastoise, thinking that I could take this a little bit better, but it turns out that I don't. I go for an Ice Beam expecting the Venusaur. He doesn't bring the Venusaur in, and now I go for a Surf. Now here, he misclicks and goes for a Fire Punch, he tells me in the chat. So what I do is I just spam Protect so he can get his superpower off. It's a fun league, so I don't want to have someone's game go down that way. So I do let him get off the superpower that he was originally intending to get off. So this is what the game would be like. I do go into my Electrode to revenge this Machoke, and then he gets the momentum here. So I actually go for the Reflect, knowing that Earthquake won't kill me. He actually does get up his Rocks, which is fine. The only Rocks weak Mon I have is Dodrio. I also go into Muck, just knowing that Earthquake doesn't do a lot, and Mega Drain recovers most of the damage that Earthquake does. He does recognize this and goes to his Venusaur. I get lucky and get a Crunch defense drop, and then he goes for a Reflect, and I get my Ice Punch off. So thankfully he preserves another turn in that regard, so we can get his other screen up. So now I'm up, I believe, 5-4, and he goes for a Calm Mind with Raichu. I don't think there's anything he has that'll kill me, so I just stay in and go for a Crunch, and he goes for the T-Bolt, gets the full para, but it doesn't really end up mattering. So now I'm up 5-3, he goes into his Charizard, and we'll go for a Flare Blitz to knock out my Muck, which is absolutely fine. I'm going to go into my Electrode because I feel that I can Thunder Wave this thing and cripple it quite well, and he does go for the Flare Blitz here. It does a butt ton of damage to my Electrode, and I just have to stay in and spam Foul Play. He gets fully parried here, which sucks, but I make the biggest over prediction ever and think, well, he probably wants to preserve his Charizard for Ninetales or something. I don't know why I thought he would preserve his Charizard. I think I figured he would preserve his Charizard because he knew that Sandslash could hit Golem and Dragonite quad effectively. So I make the Thunder Wave prediction expecting him to go into Dragonite. And I also, but he gets fully paralyzed. So I actually expect him to do it again for some reason. I don't know why I clicked it this time. I honestly think I made a mistake in this turn, going for Thunder Wave a third time. I think what happened is I looked at the turn previously and thought it was like the turn where I hit Foul Play and he got fully paralyzed. Like, I didn't realize that the turn went off. I was in like another browser or something. So I hit Thunder Wave again thinking like, oh, maybe it just didn't register the play, but it turns out he got fully paralyzed. So I end up making a bad play twice, and this time he gets a Roost off. So I'm able to go for a Foul Play here. And that's just a mistake by me. If I had gone for a Foul Play earlier, I might have been in a little better position, but it's a for fun league, so I can't be upset. I go for a Thrash thinking it'll kill, and it turns out he's like bulky, so fuck. I'm like in a really shitty position because you know, Dodrio was actually supposed to clean, but I presumed the Thrash would kill, and it didn't. So there's a problem here. I do go for the Dark Pulse, thinking it's going to do a better amount of damage, also hoping for a flinch, but it doesn't, and I'm able to go into my Sandslash and Brick Break here. Now, Ice Shard doesn't kill the Dragonite, but also the only way Dragonite kills me is if it has a quad effective move. Earthquake doesn't kill me or anything along those lines, and Maneve hasn't brought any Dragonite set so far in the league that has a quad effective move. So I was hoping that he wouldn't have Fire Blast or Fire Punch or anything along those lines. I didn't think it was that strategic against my team to bring those things, but he actually does end up bringing the Brick Break and knocking out my Sandslash. So Maneve actually takes a win off of me, which is absolutely fine. I'm actually really proud of him. He really was dedicated to this league, so I don't mind the loss at all. But yeah, I mean, I just was stupid for thinking that one turn already went off, and he got the roost off, and for that, my Thrash didn't end up killing, and all these things, so it's whatever. I don't really care too much, and I was still at the top of the division post this loss, so it's all good. The next team is against QQ. I don't think he had a win at this point in the league yet. He had a really bulky team with like Snorlax and Chansey and Slowbro and Zapdos, which is interesting. I noticed he was really fighting weak between Snorlax and Persian and Chansey and Dugtrio, so I decided to make a team around Machamp here. I hadn't brought it yet, and I really wanted to, so I did. And I brought a defensive set, a defensive nature, because Superpower still just bopped everything. Toxic was for the Zapdos, and Thunder Punch and Rock Slide for coverage and everything else. This was my Stealth Rocker, as well as a Swords Dance Sweeper. He just lost to Edgequake, or I guess Slide Quake in this situation. So I decided to do a Swords Dance set as a backup, but it was mostly just a Stealth Rock. Venusaur, Dual Stab plus Earthquake hit his entire team, and then Leech Seed on things like Snorlax and Chansey would actually help my recovery a lot, so I decided to do that. Alolan Muck then was there to hit everything. Self-Destruct was to weaken things like the Snorlax or the Chansey or the Persian or anything that was bulky or annoying that I would just want to get rid of. Zapdos in particular was a massive threat for my team, so I needed something that would just bop it if I ever needed to in said situation. This was another great answer to Zapdos. In a world in which he doesn't have Heat Wave, Sandslash does pretty well against this thing, where I can Toxic or Ice Punch. If he decides to roost on me, I do have the Earthquake attack to hit it quite well. I also have Toxic, so I can hit the Slowbro, which would otherwise wall this set. And then I have Blastoise, which I decided to bring a physical set. I didn't think he'd be switching in Slowbro on this right away, because he knows I could possibly have Dark Pulse. So I was a physical set, so Aqua Jet would do a lot of damage, and then if you wanted to switch Zapdos in, I could hit it with an Ice Punch into an Aqua Jet, which would do a lot of damage. So that was sort of my game plan going into this, and you will see how the game goes right here. So yeah. He goes for the Fake Out with Alolan Persian, and I'm going to be able to get off my physical Waterfall hit, which I don't think he expects. He also doesn't know that I have Earthquake at this point, so he will see it go off on his Tentacruel, and it will do a lot of damage, thankfully. So he decides to switch out and go into Zapdos. I do go for the Waterfall, which does 34%. Now here, I decide to switch into Sandslash because I know that nothing is going to be super effective against me, and I can just easily get up my rocks here. It's free rocks against his team with Zapdos and Arcanine, two incredibly big threats, and Ice Punch doesn't even kill me, but he gets the freeze. But I thaw out, so I am able to get the Earthquake off at +2. Ice Punch doesn't kill me with the Snorlax, and now I get frozen again. So I was really upset, but it didn't really matter. I thought it was pretty funny. The freeze, thaw out, and then freeze again, this big psych out. But thankfully I am able to go into Machamp and get the superpower off. And he goes into Zapdos. Now, I could predict him to roost, but I didn't want to lose my Machamp to a Drill Peck right away, so I just decided to sack my Blastoise. In the off chance he doesn't kill me, I could get a free Aqua Jet off. Now I can go into my Venusaur knowing that I can semi-stall him out, in the sense that if he wants to go for Roost, he loses his Flying typing, Giga Drain will recover my health back up, plus the Leech Seed damage, puts him in a position where he actually can't switch back in after Rock, so he's just sort of in this like lost limbo phase where he has to lose his Zapdos. So Mega Venusaur walling a Zapdos, you never see that every day, so that was interesting. Yeah, so we got the Persian coming in, doesn't do a lot of damage, and it actually Muck just starts annihilating it. In the world in which there's no abilities for Fur Coat, Muck's just going to do a lot of damage to this thing. And Muck is looking really nice here in the sense that even if there's a Dugtrio there, I can just self-destruct on anything. He does miss the Will-O-Wisp, which I feel kind of bad for, but I don't think it mattered too much because I exploded anyway. And I would have killed him with anything coming in. He does go for Play Rough from the Persian, and as you can see, the defensive set of the Machamp is going to come in really key here. So, yeah, it's really good. And Machamp claims a lot of kills this game. I can go into Venusaur here. I know that Dugtrio doesn't kill me with anything, and an Earthquake will kill the Dugtrio back. So we get another 2-0 win. I believe now we are 3-1 plus 5. So it's really interesting, and going into this last game against Sean, aka Blind Messiah, where the reverse is about to happen. If I beat Sean, I'm about to own his soul. So it's a reverse to what would happen with Tangle of Boots. So it's a win. I want to win it for that reason, but also if I win it, I make playoffs. So this is the playoffs determining game. If I win, it's interesting. So if I win at all, I make playoffs. If Sean wins by more than a 2-0, then he makes playoffs. Remember, playoffs is just finals. If the game result ends up being in Sean's favor as a 1-0 or a 2-0, Manib, aka the Blue Phoenix, actually makes playoffs based on how it worked out. So it's an interesting situation where the result of this game determines who goes into playoffs. Against Tangle of Boots, I was the Tangle of Boots' only loss in the season, so we ended up going 4-1. So it's interesting. I'm going to show you Sean's team. It was Aerodactyl, Gengar, Mega Blastoise, Venomoth, Wigglytuff, Hitmonchan, Marowak, Kadabra, Flareon, and then the starter Pikachu. So I'm going to show you the team. I decided to bring Mega Venusaur here. I thought it did a lot of work. Even with the plus defense nature, I'm not really worried about Aerodactyl's super effective hits, and then Mega Drain, plus Earthquake hits the entire team. I don't think I even needed Sludge Bomb, because, yeah, I mean, I would only need it for Wigglytuff. So Earthquake plus Giga Drain hit mostly everything else there. And then Leech Seed and Sleep Powder, obviously very important. Electrode is to outspeed the Aerodactyl. Foul Play and Thunderbolt once again. Teleport for the slow initiative. And then Hyper Beam is in case I needed some massive big hit off on something. Maybe even like a Marowak that's coming in or something late game. I couldn't really think of anything else I wanted to put on Electrode, so I just threw on Hyper Beam. Blastoise is a Rock Slide, Waterfall, Aqua Jet, another physical set here. It hits everything quite well, and I do think that he might be incentivized to go into something along the lines of Wigglytuff or even Kadabra against what he might think is a special Blastoise, so I would be able to do really well with a physical Blastoise. It's also very crucial because Priority is really good against him in the sense of if he sets up Quiver Dances with Venomoth, or just Priority against Aerodactyl is very good. And then what water doesn't hit, Rock hits quite well, especially Venomoth, which I obviously don't want to set up. That was the other reason I didn't go special, is because I didn't want to be setup bait for a Quiver Dance Venomoth. So, and then Toxic is there. This is my setup sweeper. He's kind of weak to water type attacks outside of Mega Blastoise. So I decided to do Crab Hammer, which is a good move. It has a slight chance to miss, but it doesn't get Waterfall, so I had to go Crab Hammer. And then Superpowers to hit everything like a Mega Blastoise that Crab Hammer might otherwise not. And then Facade is in case I get burned. Sandslash is a Stealth Rocking set, the exact same set as last week in the sense of I set up Stealth Rocks, and then if he goes into something else thinking he could just wall my physical moves, I can set up a Sword Stance and do a lot of damage. And then I brought the other Sandslash just to Toxic Stall and get Priority Ice off of on him. Like I said, Priority against the Venomoth, Priority against the starter Pikachu, against the Aerodactyl. Super effective Priority is very, very nice here. So decided to do that as well. Against Gengar too, it's pretty weak physically defensive wise, so Priority's nice against him. So let's go into the game. It's against Sean. And I'll lead Blastoise because I thought that it hit mostly everything. I go for the Toxic against the Hitmonchan because I know that Brick Break or even Thunder Punch isn't going to 2-hit KO me. But now I go into the Venusaur knowing that even if he has Ice Punch, it's not going to do that much. There you go, it does 35%. I recover with the Leech Seed, and I will recover more with Giga Drain as well. So he is going to go into his Flareon, recognizing that that's the case. I make a double into Blastoise, knowing that he wants to do that, and then I go for the Waterfall with Blastoise, because it's a free hit. He doesn't have any great switch-ins. So then I go for an Aqua Jet. I go for an Aqua Jet to knock out the Hitmonchan. He does go into the Venomoth here, which is very scary. Very, very frustrating, and I missed the Sleep Powder. So here I'm in a very scary situation because I know for a fact that you know, Venomoth's about to do a lot of work against me now. So he goes for the Bug Buzz, and thankfully my Sandslash lives it and is able to get a Rock Slide off. Unfortunately, it also means I have to sack my Sandslash. So instead of this Venomoth being asleep, turns out I have 2 dead Mons now. But it's okay, it's no big deal. He does go into his Blastoise and Earthquake, which is cool. I didn't expect that, otherwise I think I would have taken any hit. But no, I probably wouldn't have taken a Surf. But I do get the Toxic off, thankfully, and that's very useful. I am going to be able to go for a Thunderbolt against the Blastoise, and the Electrode is going to be able to take an Earthquake. I think it's because I had a plus defense nature, I'm not 100% sure. And he's going to go into Flareon. It's very obvious he has something like Quick Attack, so I'm going to switch into my Blastoise here and get another physical water move off, Waterfall right there, against the Venomoth. And now here he goes into Gengar. I can't really do anything besides just Aqua Jet straight up. And he actually goes for a sub, expecting me to switch. So I'm able to go for an Aqua Jet one more time to break that sub. And Shadow Ball doesn't actually kill me. So now I'm putting this Gengar actually in a good range for Thunderbolt to kill. So Electrode is going to be able to do the damage with Thunderbolt, but he actually goes into Flareon, which is really especially bulky. Thankfully, Foul Play does a ton of damage because Flareon is very, very physically offensive. But here it's Kingler versus the world, and actually I recognize this, right? Any move kills Gengar and Flareon, which means all I need to do is get 1 agility up and kill with a Crab Hammer. That's all I need to do. I know he has Will-O-Wisp, but 2 Crab Hammers still kill. And this Flareon can't do much to me, especially if he chooses to Will-O-Wisp here, which is the right play. And Aerodactyl can't kill me with anything in one shot, which means I should be guaranteed to get a Crab Hammer, at least 2 Crab Hammers off on Aerodactyl. So as you can see, I get down to post killing this Flareon, I'm down at 73%. You can see this here going into Aerodactyl. I missed the Crab Hammer, and he goes for the Wing Attack, which is 26%. So like I said, there's no attack that he has right here that can, even Rock Slide I don't think would have done it. There's no attack he can do that, one-shots or even 2-shots my Kingler. So even though I missed this Crab Hammer, I can still hit him one more time and then probably kill him right after with a superpower or something along those lines. So I do go for the Crab Hammer one more time, and I miss again, and he gets the Wing Attack off, and still I'm not dying to the burn, but at this point it's too late because, as you can see, it doesn't kill. He does go for the Roost here, which essentially is a good play because it solidifies him the game in the sense that I lose the burn. However, since it is regardless, Manib would have made playoffs anyway because it was 2-1 that end situation. I do lose to the Crab Hammer, misses, but it's okay. I don't mind too much. It was a for fun league, and I'm actually really happy that my boy Manib ended up making playoffs. It's really cool. He's taking on Tangela Boots. Definitely a David versus Goliath situation, but I have faith in Manib, and I think that he's going to kill it in playoffs. I'll let you know in the description who ended up winning. I'll link the finals replay, actually, in the description. I won't say who won. I'll put the finals replay in there when I upload this, but yeah, that's it. That's the ZUL League. It was really fun. It was really refreshing, and it's nice. It's what really gave me this motivation for this People League that I'm uploading right now, in the sense that, you know, I had this for fun league. Now I'm going back into the competitive scene. I've sort of urged for it, especially after being in ZUL LTC ever since OWL. I'm just ready to be in a regular league again, with no weird restrictions or anything. And I'm super excited for it, and I'm happy it's working out. So yeah, that's it. That's the ZUL League. We finished 3-2. We didn't end up making playoffs, but that's okay. It was all for fun. But yeah, I had a lot of fun. With that, I will see you all later. See you in week 3 of PEBA. It's going to be a lot of fun. It's against Galadite, so we'll see how it goes.